Good morning, everyone, and thank you guys so much for joining today. We have a lot going on in the market. It's the first trading day of 2022, and we're definitely starting it off with a bang. Tesla is exploding in pre-market, and we just have a lot of just electric vehicle stocks exploding, and we're definitely set for a good start for 2022. Even NIO's running, Tesla, Ford, GM, Rivian, Lucid. They're all running today, so that's good to see. But I know the star of the show is definitely Tesla. They reported some really good delivery numbers, and it's just exploding, Tom.
Yeah, it really is. It's looking awesome. It's even breaking up above this 1040 resistance, and it started to really move away from the levels it was at last week. If we look at this on the 90-day, 15-minute, you can see there was a bit of a resistance there right around $1,120, and it looks like we ended up just breaking that, exploding right up, and it's just looking like a very nice start to the day. And like you said, Mike, they had some very nice delivery numbers, delivering 936,172 vehicles in 2021. But the awesome thing about this is that this was an 87% increase versus in 2020. So they are growing at a rapid pace. And if we see these other electric vehicle companies starting to grow like this too, it's going to be good across the board. But man, amazing numbers for Tesla. I'm just glad to see them doing well. They're one of my favorites.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we look at the key points right where your cursor is, it says, according to a consensus compiled by FactSet, Wall Street analysts had anticipated Tesla deliveries of 267,000 in the fourth quarter and 897,000 for all of 2021. So they were expected to deliver 897,000 for 2021. They came in at 936,000, like Tom said, but all of this happened in a global shortage of especially chips and just basically everything. So it's it's awesome to see that they were able to really beat their deliveries by a good margin, even with all the crazy things that are going on in the world right now.
Yeah, you're right. That crazy stuff really put it in, or it really impacted a lot of other companies. And I'm really glad to see Tesla kind of push through that. You're right. That was a really bad year, especially just for production last year. You would think that those production numbers might have taken a bit of a hit, even if the profits didn't. But it's really good to see that those numbers stayed up, and hopefully they keep going. Hopefully the first quarter of this year ends up being good as more people make the switch. I know I personally just keep seeing more and more Teslas on the road. It kind of makes me want to get one, Mike. It's just they're so interesting. It's one of those very innovative companies. There's just nothing else like it yet. Although it seems like Rivian and stuff is getting pretty close.
You know it. Yeah, it's crazy. So we just had the market open. Tesla's up just under 8% so far. Some of these weekly call options are up anywhere from 120% all the way up to 290% today alone. So that's huge. Tesla is blasting. Tom, what are the most important levels to watch out for?
With Tesla this morning, honestly, it gapped up so much. I haven't seen it up at these levels in a little while, but I was really looking for this break above 1040, which we saw. So hopefully this 1040 to 1039 area ends up holding up as a pretty good support. It kind of looks like it might today. So if it holds this, I think it'll be awesome. If we're able to break up above the high of pre-market around 1154, I think that would make for a pretty good breakout trade. But let's go back on the 4-hour chart and see exactly what areas we're getting up to. And it looks like that there is a pretty big resistance coming up right around the 1,175 or 1175 area. That's going to be the next major resistance now that we passed above 1140, I think.
Gotcha. So yeah, it's running really well. It still has some way to go before we retest that all-time high around 1,250, but either way, it's awesome to see. And Tom, I know we noticed that Ford and GM were moving, they were kind of mirroring Tesla this morning. How are they looking?
They are still looking pretty good. I will say that they are starting to come back down now over the past 5 minutes, kind of like what we're seeing with Tesla. But in the end, they've had a great pre-market. They were definitely going up with them for a little while. And, they're doing pretty good. Ford and GM both had great days. It looks like GM's actually holding up a little bit better than Ford and Tesla are even right now, which is pretty surprising.
Interesting. All right. So some other stocks that we have moving, definitely BLNK. This one's up 4%. It's not looking bad. Honestly, I wouldn't say the setup's great. It's just it's good. It's not great right now, but either way, 4% is pretty good.
Yeah, it is. You always love to see that, and hopefully we see these growth stocks keep going up. I know last week they had an okay week. You can see Blink on Friday wasn't doing the best, so I'm glad to see it up this morning. Hopefully we see RUN and the rest of the sector start to pop off too. I've honestly been waiting for these stocks for a while because man, they've been starting to get pretty beaten down, kind of like Corsair and a lot of the others.
True. Another one that's looking pretty decent, and I don't even know if I want to mention it because every time we do it turns around, but Palantir. Palantir's up nearly 2% today. It has a good opening so far, but we know how this one likes to turn around.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully it can go up and break that $18.60 resistance right there. This one actually might be a pretty good intraday move, but you're right. I mean, we better keep our fingers crossed or knock on some wood here.
Oh, gosh. So, yeah, I mean, there's definitely some good movement so far. NVIDIA is actually looking really good. Wow. It's up 3.5%. A ton of volume is flowing in right now. And Tom, it looks like we're really close to what is that, like a quadruple top right around 305?
Wow, it actually is. Yeah, we're getting really close to that. Hopefully that ends up holding up today and then maybe NVIDIA will go back down into its channel. But you're right. This is very explosive from them. Hopefully that resistance at 305 ends up making some type of good play. If it ends up flying through there, then it might be a good call opportunity. But I would honestly watch for that to be a pretty good resistance. As we can see, like Mike pointed out, it's definitely had a lot of bounces over the past few days. And then it looks like AMD is also going up, Mike, and AMD is getting close to that 148.70 resistance that it also triple topped at.
True that. Tom, check out the QQQ. This thing is blasting.
No. Wow, that's actually really nice for the QQQ. I'm surprised to see it moving like this, especially whenever we look at the SPY. The SPY is up, but it's not doing quite as well. The QQQ is really starting to get back up there, and if it breaks up above 401, we could see a nice run out of this.
Yeah, wow. Crazy stuff. And then another thing is, I know we had all those flight cancellations recently, but a lot of these airlines are also looking great. Delta Airlines up 2.5%, and it just broke out above that $40 resistance.
You're right. Actually, I would have never thought to see these airlines up this morning, but it's very interesting to see them like this. Like we talked about in last night's video, ever since Christmas, there's been 15,000 flight cancellations, and it looks like the airlines are liking this news. So I don't know what's happening, but hey, it's nice to see them going up. I know I saw an article on CNBC that said that the airlines are looking past. They're kind of looking past what's been going on, and they're looking more of at the future. So maybe that's the case. I know they have earnings coming up pretty soon, Mike. It looks like on January 13th in Delta Airlines case. So we're definitely going to have some volatility here soon.
Sounds good. We're even seeing some good action out of Spotify. I've been really eyeing this one for a longer term play. I like the setup a lot. It's not my favorite setup in the entire market, but at this price point, I think it looks pretty good actually.
I think so too. It has that nice support around 220. I think it looks very good. It looks like a play on growth. I would definitely throw it into that growth sector though. It looks like it's been kind of all over the place this year, kind of like what we're seeing with Corsair and Palantir and all the rest of them. But I really like this bounce off this 220 level. I think that looks really good. And on the daily, for shares and even for shorting some puts, I think it's just a great opportunity right now.
There we go. So I just want to welcome everyone to the stream really quickly. Thank you guys so much for joining, and welcome George, Kathy, Vicky, Sean, Mike, Hunter, Rick, JB, and Ubi Moo. Thank you guys so much for joining. Let's go. We have JB saying 2022 to the moon. Yeah, let's go. I mean, even Tesla's still rocketing, so it's definitely starting off on the right foot.
Yeah, it is. I wonder if people are buying at the beginning of the year so that they don't have to worry about paying taxes last year and all this type of stuff. So hopefully we start to see some good positions come in here, Mike. And I'm so glad to see Tesla breaking up above that pre-market high. Looks like it's continuing with the run here. And man, like we talked about, 1175 is the next major resistance. And I'm wondering if we could get up there today. I know we're already up almost 10%, but man, it is on fire.
Yeah. Welcome Kevin and Matt to the stream. And then JB mentioned IWM, so the Russell 2000. This is, it's looking good, not great. It's up 0.85%. It had a really good candle a couple minutes ago. Let's see. I mean, the SPY itself is up 0.5%. The QQQ is up 0.86. So yeah, I mean it's running today. It's not like doing amazing, but IWM is it's just kind of like one of the like lesser versions of like like the S&P 500 in my opinion.
Yeah, I would say that too. And you can see on their daily chart, it just hasn't had the type of movement. Like, if we look at the SPY, it's around all-time highs. If we look at QQQ, it's around all-time highs. But if we look at IWM, it's like in the middle of the channel here. And I'm not saying it's bad, like Mike said, it's just a little bit of a slower version, in my opinion, too. And I just feel like that the SPY and the QQQ are a little bit I think it shows more of what's going on with the market, especially with some of these volatile stocks like Tesla and all these other ones. You can see how much it's really making the SPY start to jump up here. Same thing with QQQ. I think it's looking pretty hot, actually. And we just broke 401, so it looks like it had a decent run up to 401.50 right there.
There we go. All right, and then we have Ubi saying thoughts on Roblox for today. Roblox is looking terrible right now. Even with all the positive momentum we're seeing, Roblox is just sinking. It's down like 2%, which isn't the end of the world, but still, like this price action is pretty bad. In my opinion, it's not looking good, and we do have a pretty big support right around 100.
Yeah, I'm seeing that $100 support being huge today. Hopefully it ends up holding right here, but you're right. It's not a good day for Roblox, especially on a day where you would expect them to go up. And I know we just saw those reports come out where even Pelosi had like some positions in Roblox, and very interesting to hear. But, it's just a pretty bad start to 2022 for Roblox here, especially with a lot of the other stocks in the green. I do have a little bit of my watch list in the red, but with all the growth and all of those really nice stocks up, you would think that Roblox would be one kind of running today. But hey, I guess it's just consolidating a little bit. And they did have a really good week last week. I'll give them that.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Even Disney's looking pretty good, Tom. I know like sometimes Disney's like one of those stocks where it's hit or miss. Like sometimes we have the market blasting up and Disney doesn't care and it'll just keep on falling. But sometimes it runs with the market. And, it's good to see right now. They actually have a negative correlation to the market like over the past year, which is pretty interesting. But I'll definitely take this positive movement.
Yeah, me too. I think it looks pretty good. Disney's been on fire. I know they had that pretty good news come out last week or I think it was last week, they had a patent go through. And then obviously that news came out where Pelosi took a position up on Disney too for, I believe it was September, 130 strike calls, believe it or not. But I mean, it's crazy to see Disney up like this again. I'm glad to see it. And, Disney was running kind of with those growth stocks last week. And I really hope it continues up again this week. I feel like on the daily, there's such a big gap to fill here from like 165 up to like 175. So I'll definitely be looking for that gap to fill like over the next few months.
True that. So I know we mentioned like a couple of the EVs earlier in the stream. How about we do like a check-in on all of them just to see what's going on? So, oh wow, NIO just gave back like all of its gains.
Yeah, NIO did. That's very unfortunate to see for them. I wonder how Tesla's doing. This makes me scared to click on it. But hey, I'm glad to see Tesla still holding up well. That's great. So it looks like the major player today is still running, but we do have XPEV or XPEV. Looks like they're also turning off to the downside. RIVN, another one turning overs. And earlier in the morning, a lot of these EV companies were running up pretty well with Tesla. I did not expect them to pull back this hard, but it looks like Tesla's, with it being company-specific news, I guess that's the reason why they're sticking up.
Yeah. How about like XPeng?
XPEV. I know this one was also down. It was not a good sign. They were running so much in pre-market too, and honestly, XPEV's almost to the opening price of Friday now.
I will say that, like, obviously Tesla's holding up the best, but like Ford and GM are holding up pretty well too.
Yeah, they are. They're actually looking a lot better than XPEV and NIO are looking. And I wonder if NIO and XPEV are kind of influenced by BABA's bad movement here. I know the China stocks are not looking too good, but like you pointed out, they're definitely holding up a lot better than the other ones. So that's good to see. And maybe Ford and GM, obviously they're more established. So maybe that's what the market's going off of. Like all these other companies, they're not going to even touch the production numbers that Tesla touched last year.
True. And then even Kathy said thoughts on Lucid, and that one it's not looking bad, it's just not looking great. But either way, I mean, there is some resistance right around like $39.50 and like $40. Right between that range, I'm seeing a lot of resistance. Then I'm also seeing a decent amount of support right at $38.
Yeah, that $38 level is going to be huge, and up there at 39.50 is going to be another major one. And as far as it goes today, they are holding up a little bit better than like Neo and Xpeng are, but I will say it's not moving the best either. And over the past 1 minute, it is starting to come back down a little bit harder. So definitely watch it. I feel like if it does end up running, though, it could be a pretty good play to catch. It's just, with how we're seeing the other ones pull back, I could see Lucid possibly starting to slow down, kind of like how it is.
Yeah, it's just kind of tough, Tom. Like 100% IV on Lucid, it definitely does have some good opportunities, like you said, especially when it ran in early November from like $25 up to $55. I know people banked off of their options, but it's just it's tough to play it consistently because their options are pretty expensive. Like I know they're not super expensive like dollar wise. Like you can go out to like February 18th. Well, actually they are kind of expensive dollar wise. So like if you went to like the 38 strike calls for February, it costs like $500, and that's pretty big for a $38 stock, and that's only 46 days.
Yeah, definitely. That is pretty big. And looking at it, you're right. That IV is still pretty high. And I just don't know what to make of Lucid. Like, I like it on the chart, Mike, especially on the daily, how it's holding up on this 35.50 support. But like you said, it's just the way it's moving. And especially, I think on the intraday charts, it looks like it's kind of stuck in between this range. Maybe if we can break out up above $40, I think it could be a good play. But until we see it break out, I don't think I would touch it. And like you pointed out with the IV being so high, I think I would only do it as a quick intraday play. If I really wanted to hold this one, I think I would just get shares of it personally.
Yeah, and like shares or maybe some short puts because we could take advantage of this expensive options chain too.
Yeah, we definitely could. That would be a really smart way. And if anyone's looking to do that, there's a huge support down here around $35. So maybe a strike around 35, or even like Mike said, the 38 strike. Like if you're going to get them, you might as well just sell the put because you can just take such good advantage of that. And if you're ever going to buy shares, selling a put is normally a pretty good way to open the position anyway.
Yeah. Alrighty. So Tesla is now up over 10%. Let's see. Yeah, it's up over 10%. It's just under that $1,170 resistance level. The options on Tesla are printing today. Like some of these weekly expirations are up over 400%, Tom, in a day. Oh,
yeah,
God.
that's insane. 400%. I mean, sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's less, but with this type of movement, it's awesome to see them up that much. And we can't forget how expensive Tesla options are. So that's going to be 400% on probably some options that costed $4,000 in the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. And then it looks like we're also seeing some really good movement out of the banks, believe it or not. Like JP Morgan and Bank of America, they're doing very well.
Yeah, this is actually explosive. I'm very surprised to see this. And JP Morgan actually really broke out of this like 160.25 resistance. It's actually looking really good. And even on the daily, they're starting to come back up and starting to explode again. I wonder if we're going to be retesting all-time highs on the banks pretty soon. You're right. This is huge. And look at Bank of America, actually. It kind of moved off of this huge trend line that I've had on my chart for a long time. And it looks like it's actually bouncing off of this once again back to the upside. It looks pretty good, actually. I think Bank of America might be a pretty good play for the next couple days. And look at the IV come down too.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's been a while since we saw like a great rally from bank stocks. Like it's just they've just been like a little bit I guess you say they've been lacking momentum for the past couple of months, but today's definitely good. So that's awesome. And another like stock that we haven't seen run in a long time is VIAC, Tom. This is the one from the Archegos, I guess you could say, scandal type, I guess you could say margin call. We'll say margin call. It's not really a scandal, but VIAC is finally starting to pop back up. It's up nearly 7% after just a horrible year. Basically, for those of you who don't know, Bill Huang was so leveraged on this stock to the upside, and I think it was like a 20 or $30 billion margin call, and he just basically lost everything. And the stock went from like 101 down to 28, and now it's just finally starting to rise back up.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of bouncing off that lower like $30 support down there. You're right. That was a crazy situation. And honestly, I remember whenever we were talking about this stock a long time ago, whenever it was around like $40, and it's definitely been on the downtrend, but you're right. If this $30 support holds up, I think it could be a pretty good play to the upside. Personally, it's not one for me. It's just a little bit of a crazy setup and a crazy situation, like you pointed out. But I do like it for the longer term, though. I think it'll end up coming back pretty well over the next like year or so.
It's not bad. IV's not bad either. Like, to me, it's more of like a YOLO play. Like, it's not like safe. Like in my opinion, I would say like a company like Square is a pretty safe hold. Like VIAC, I wouldn't call it like super safe, but with the current pricing, it's definitely tempting.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And they had that crazy situation that made them fall down. And you could see how explosive they were right before that situation happened. So if they start to get some good news and they start to run, it could be a really good one to pick up when that movement starts to come back. And I'll tell you, it's honestly not too bad. And Mike, I actually just kind of found something here on the chart. We're actually getting really close to this resistance again at 32.50. Maybe if we're able to break this, which is where we hit a couple months ago and ended up going down, if we're able to break this, it could be a pretty good play.
There we go. So, Tom, we have a bunch of people talking about the market right now. We have Ironical saying, seems the morning party has finished. I see a reversal. George said the SPY is tanking, and it definitely is. Like, it's really tanking. Microsoft is bleeding, especially. Yeah, look at Microsoft. Like, this is I don't know, Tom. It's not looking good at all. Like the SPY, Microsoft, it's not good.
Yeah, it's not. I'll tell you, Microsoft is below some pretty bad levels here. Once they fell below that 340 support, I thought they were looking pretty bad there. And then they broke below some of these SMAs, and it just is not looking good at all. Same thing on Apple, unfortunately. At least Apple's starting to come back down now. But, they were ripping up at the beginning. But you can see how, like, over the past few days, for example, like Apple's really under that key resistance level of like 181 still. It just failed to get up above that again. And I'm just seeing a lot of these stocks keep hitting these key levels and going down. Even Tesla is starting to fall off that like 1170 type of area. So hopefully we see that momentum come back, Mike. But you're right, it definitely turned around. And actually the SPY is about to fall below 474, which was a huge support level last Thursday and after hours. So hopefully that level ends up holding up for the SPY, but looks like we just broke below it.
Like, I'm just like looking at the chart in like awe. Like, we started this morning awesome, and like Tesla and a lot of these other like EV stocks were just carrying the market, but goes to show you the market can just turn like instantly almost.
Yeah, it can. And look at Zoom even. I mean, man, Zoom just lost all that momentum from last week. It looks like it's about to retest this major support level now again. Oh, it definitely was a turnaround from this morning. That's for sure. I was expecting some better movement. Even like Ford and GM look like they're coming back down now. Yeah, it's definitely not I was going to say it was a great start to the week, but I mean, hey, if it starts to turn back around like this all day long, it's not going to be not too good of a start. So hopefully we see these come back, and I really hope to see the airlines hold up, because I know the airlines had some pretty bad news like we talked about earlier, and I was surprised to see them doing so well. And with this bad news coming through, I'm really worried for them.
Yeah, and like even if we look at the VIX really quickly, like that's starting to pop up, especially intraday. Like, I know it's still technically down like 0.4%, but it's definitely moving really quickly.
Yeah, from that low of day at 18 to where it is now, it popped up another like 2.4%. So yeah, it's definitely having some good intraday moves. And I think the VIX might be a good play, especially if we start to see the SPY come down in a major level. And unfortunately, we might see that, because if we look at SPY like on the 180-day 4-hour chart, all that we've been doing is like double topping, and now we kind of triple topped up here around this 480 resistance. It's just it looks like this resistance is really holding up, and we're just failing to break out above that. So that definitely worries me for the short term, Mike. Like, if we end up coming down, it's going to be pretty scary, I think. I don't know how low we're going to go, but it's definitely not going to be a good start to the year.
Yeah. All right. And then Hunter said, not the best Santa rally I've ever witnessed. And it's actually a good point. Like, Tom, we're technically still in the Santa rally phase, because remember, it's the last 5 trading days of 2021 and the first 2 trading days of 2022. So it's like, it is kind of weird to think about it that way.
Yeah, it is actually. That is very weird to think about. And, most people wouldn't have thought that. I know lots of people probably thought the Santa rally were probably like the 3 or 5 days right before Christmas, but in reality, it was the 7 days after it. So It was kind of funny to see that happen, but in the end, though, hopefully the rally sticks around. Like we're seeing like AMD and lots of stocks, like we talked about this morning, Mike. Like they were going up, they were really close to those resistance levels, especially Nvidia. Nvidia had a really easy price point there, right around 306, and we can see it hit that, came right back down again, and it's just unfortunate to see this happen with a lot of other stocks, but hopefully they end up going back up. And I will say, like Nvidia and AMD are right around some pretty big supports, so they still have a good chance to hold up, I think, for the rest of the week.
There we go. Honestly, I feel like chip stocks are like they're not weak. They're powerhouses, and it's hard to bet against them. But like I think, especially when we look at like I don't know, maybe like just like max daily charts or even just like a chart like the past couple of weeks on them, I feel like they can definitely pull back. And I'm not expecting a crash or anything like that, but I feel like we can definitely see like a slower move down.
I think so too. It depends on how it ends up playing out. But I think we could, if we continue to see things like Tesla and stuff explode, it might be a little hard for these ones to come down. But if we do see like the SPY and stuff start to pull back, kind of like what we're talking about today, I could definitely see them coming down as well. And, we've been kind of waiting for this for a while, Mike, like for this slowdown. And I'm really waiting for them to just fall below this big support. Like once this support gets broken, I think it could start to fall off in a major, major way. I'm actually in some AMD puts, believe it or not. And I was kind of upset this morning to see the market coming back up like this. So hopefully this resistance ends up holding up for us. But in the end, I'm with you. I really want it to go down. It's just I really want it to fall below that 144 support, like in AMD's case. Once that happens, I could see it falling down in a pretty major way, possibly back down towards like 130 or even lower.
True. And the pricing isn't bad on AMD either. Like the IV's at like 0.54, which it's not great, but it's not bad. So we'll see. But the market itself definitely is not looking too good so far. And checking in on some of the stocks that are moving with a lot of momentum, is actually Pfizer to the downside. It looks like they're breaking down right now in a pretty big way.
Wow, they are actually. You're right. It's not looking good. And I'll tell you, I thought their setup was looking pretty decent. But once they broke that 59 support, it was just, man, that sell-off is so drastic today. I could not believe that how low they're actually going. Let's go check this out on the 1-year daily. Wow, yeah, they're actually pretty overextended up here. And now that they started to break these supports, man, I could see them falling down towards this 55 support minimum, possibly even lower. But, this company has been on fire with all the great vaccine innovations with like their pill that came out and all that crazy stuff. So they've definitely been on fire, but I mean, it's definitely, it was due for a pullback, I think, Mike. I remember even you were talking about this one a couple of weeks ago saying, I think it was about time for one. It looks like it ended up happening.
What I'm really considering, Tom, is like I see a pattern with Pfizer. It kind of happens all the time is it'll go on this crazy uptrend, right? Like for weeks or months, and then it'll do like the same thing to the downside. Like we can see, you could say from July to like the middle of August, it went on a crazy uptrend. And then from, I guess you could say August all the way to the middle of October, it was on like a pretty significant downtrend. So like I'm kind of tempted to like maybe grab like a small put position on it and try and like ride this potential downtrend. But the problem though is that, like we have pulled up on your chart, is that it does have earnings relatively soon. So it's like, like you never really want to hold puts on a vaccine company's stock right before they report earnings, So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. And their last earnings report actually made them explode in quite a good way. So hopefully those earnings aren't that good so that we can see that put opportunity play out a little bit better. But you're right. And I think it could even be a good play for even just the next few days, even if you're looking for something like that. I feel like it could have a pretty safe move down towards 55. And I would think if it started really falling, we might be able to retest this major support around $50 even, I would think.
Yeah. Then we have Sean saying thoughts on TSM. So yeah, I kind of feel the same. Oh, wow. Actually, TSM is actually looking really good. Yeah, it's actually looking really good to the upside right now, but just one thing to keep in mind is if we have all the other chip stocks pull back, like AMD, Nvidia, Qualcomm, Micron, and stocks like that, that will kind of work against the TSM uptrend. But if we're just looking at TSM's chart, like it's kind of breaking out.
Yeah, it is. And on the daily chart, I will say TSM has been kind of lagging behind some of the other ones. Like if we look at like AMD, Nvidia, you can see they've been like making new highs and they've been running up in a pretty drastic way. But we look at like TSM and it's been really consolidating around this 110 support. It's been like super slow this year. And hopefully it starts to break out pretty soon because like you said, Mike, if these other ones start to pull back, it's going to make it a little bit harder for this one to run. But who knows? I mean, it's been kind of like lagging behind. So hopefully they get some good news and they end up flying up, kind of like what we're seeing right now. I would think if they could end up breaking above like 130, they could start to have a pretty good retest of highs there.
Yep. And we have Mike saying DraftKings down again. Yeah, it's down 0.55% today as of right now. It is trying to bounce up intraday, but it was looking pretty good on Thursday of last week, but it's not looking horrible right now. It's just definitely not moving in the right direction, we'll say that. But it is kind of holding its ground. Of course, you guys know we love this stock for the long term, and at this price point, it's hard to resist.
Yeah, it is. I love it at this price point, and I'm glad it's kind of sticking around here, Mike. It's like it's really allowing me to like at least start to average in a little bit better, and I think it's looking pretty good. Hopefully, it ends up holding these support levels that we're around right now, because if we end up breaking down below these ones, Mike, I'm going to get pretty worried, at least for the short term. I'm still going to like them long term, but it's just not looking the best, like they said. And I'm really hoping to see growth stocks start to turn around this year. I know it's not the best start right now, but hopefully we start to see that transition happen eventually. And I'll tell you, we are seeing Apple and some of these stocks doing pretty well today. I feel like once these ones start to fall down and the market starts to fall, we will finally see that transition. It's just, unfortunately today, like we just have the major stocks like AMD, Tesla, and the rest. They ended up just pushing the market up early on. And even though like AMD was pulling back a second ago, it rocketed right back up, unfortunately. And if it ends up breaking up above like 148.50, we might see the SPY start to come back up even. Like I'm surprised to see these stocks turning around back to the upside as good as they are.
True. And then back to DraftKings for just a second. Hunter said, I don't mind if it stays here for a little bit as long as it doesn't tank. So yeah, I'm sure Tom feels the same way. And we actually have DraftKings in the green now, which is great. So that's good. It's in the green. It's in the right direction. So that's awesome. But Tom, what I'm really curious about is I know in their last earnings report, they had problems with a weak hold because of all the NFL games were hitting with the favorite in the over. I'm very curious to see what I guess you could say the hold will be for this next quarter, given all the NFL games, but even like all of like the college football games. You know what I mean? So I think that'll be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think so too. And I've been seeing a lot of close NFL games going on lately, and I know that can definitely like mess up like certain spreads and stuff like that too. So maybe they'll do a little bit better. I will say that was kind of bad last year how that came out, that a lot of those games ended up impacting their financials that much. They are a gambling company though, and that's kind of how the game goes. So hopefully they start to make up from it. Numbers suggest that in the longer term, these bookies do very, very well. So even though they can have 1 year, like Mike said, of just some games going the wrong way, hopefully this year they go a lot better, and I think that they will. And we're starting to, I think, see a little bit better of or closer games and stuff like that. Like Mike said, last year a lot of the favorites kept winning, which really killed them because everyone just likes to bet the favorite, of course. And whenever the underdog never wins, it was just a bad scenario for them with that much money going into those games. We have to keep in mind that if more people pick the winner on these games, the company has to pay them out. So like it's not like the people betting on the other side are paying it off. Like in the end, the company will have to pay that. So hopefully we see those numbers better this year.
And it really hurts the sports books when they parlay it. They'll do the parlay and the over, and then if a bunch of those hit, it's horrible. So yeah, I mean, but at the end of the day, it's also something that they can't really control. Like sometimes, like let's say they're expected, just for like easy math, like let's say they're expected to profit $100 million from their sports book, and let's say one quarter they only profit $30 million, right? That's like a huge miss. But another quarter they might profit $200 million. I guess it all depends on how the games end up playing out. But I guess it's just a part of the game, like you said.
Yeah, it is. It's a really crazy thing to think about too. Like whenever you look into like the research about it all, it's kind of crazy because you hear stuff about like where if this company knows that there's more people betting on one side than the other, they'll try to put out ads and stuff so people start betting on the other side, and they can kind of work stuff around like that. So hopefully we see stuff. Hopefully we see them turn around very well. And in the end, I just want to see the earnings turn around in general, whether it's from the games, whether it's from just any type of revenue. I can't wait to see them start to turn around. And I'm really just hoping that these supports down here, like the one around 27 to 28 ends up holding, Mike. I think that these are some pretty major supports. And if they end up breaking, it'll be pretty bad. So I feel like that they have a good chance to hold, I hope.
Well, it's looking pretty good so far. Ever since Mike mentioned it, it's looking good. So shout out to Mike. You made the stock turn around. Let's go.
Yeah, it's looking good. Let's knock on some wood here, like you did the other day. Hopefully it sticks up here. I wonder how the rest of them are doing. Wow, look at this. We're actually seeing Corsair come back. I wonder how Zoom's doing. Zoom's even getting another green candle coming back. They need one. They were really going down today.
Love to see it, Tom. Corsair, Zoom, DraftKings. What's next? Maybe Teledoc, AI even. Yeah, those are looking pretty good too. So awesome stuff.
Yeah, hopefully it turns around. It looks like 2022. It's been a very mixed day so far. I'll tell you, we started the day out, Mike, so hyped up. Everything was going up. It was awesome. And then everything turned around and now it's all going back up again. That just shows you, how volatile these stocks can be, especially on a Monday morning.
Yeah, exactly. All right, and then we have Vicky saying, hit the like, guys. So yeah, if you guys like the stream, it would help us out so much if you could smash that like button. It only takes 2 seconds, and it would help us out so much. And we really appreciate all of you guys for joining. And then Vicky also asked for levels on STNE. So STNE, Tom, what do you have for us?
Yeah, StoneCo, they're actually on fire today. They're up 9.9%. Let's go out on the 180-day 4-hour chart. They're actually starting to get pretty high here in the short term. I will say there's a pretty big resistance here, right around $19.25 on this stock, and we're getting pretty close to that. So I would say watch out for this area of $19 to $20. That's probably going to be a pretty big resistance area between there. But I will say the support that we bounced off of this morning, kind of like right around $17. I think that's a pretty good support. And now that we're up through that, I think it might be a pretty good level. The main thing I'm looking for, though, are these resistances around 19 to 20. I think that's going to be a pretty hard level to get through the next couple days.
Gotcha. And then, Tom, how about this Boeing action today? It's up 3.5% and going.
I'm really happy for this one. Like we talked about earlier, that bad news with the airlines over the weekend, that really scared me for airlines this week, but they are doing very well. I'm glad to see Boeing up as well. Looks great, up, like you said, up around 3.5%. If Boeing's able to get back up above this 210 resistance, I think they could start to have a really good move in the shorter term. And I'll tell you, they had a pretty good week last week. It was a little flat, but I mean, man, you can just see how much they're starting to recover now. Once they get back up through 210, I think it'll be game on for them.
Let's go. I'm also loving this action with Corsair. I think it looks great. I know you mentioned it like a minute ago, but I'm really liking the setup.
Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. Like you said, the setup's good. I love, especially if it could start to break out like right here. We're like right at this key resistance level from last week, right around like $21.70 to 80 cents. If we're able to break this, I think it could make for an amazing move. Looks like $22 is another pretty big resistance there too. So we're definitely getting close to some, but man, if we break them, it could start to really go. And like we've been talking about, Mike, this is going to be the best opportunity to like sell some puts, get some shares. This might be the final week these stocks are down here. If we start to see Corsair, get up towards these like $25 area again, it probably won't come back down to 20 for a while.
True that. And we also have JB saying IWM is rolling. So yeah, it's definitely true. IWM is definitely rolling to the upside. I'm just checking to see what like some of their largest holdings are because obviously it is popping off, and I just want to see what's leading that. So give me 1 second. Let's see. It looks like their heaviest weighting, and this might be a mistake, but maybe not. It looks like actually AMC, Tom.
Are you serious?
Well, that's what like iShares is holding. Let me check like another site because like that's like the first one that's popping up. Hold on. Let me double check this. Give me 1 second. So if we scroll down, looks like, I mean, AMC is also showing on this one. Let me go to Market Watch just to triple check. No, so AMC actually is not. Wait, it actually is, Tom. It looks like AMC is the heaviest weighted one in IWM.
That's actually pretty crazy to hear. I never would have guessed that, but I mean, hey, we need AMC to go up then if that's the case. Because wow, I mean that's crazy that they're weighted in there, that they're the heaviest weighting in there, Mike. That's I would have never guessed that, to be honest with you. And what's the weighting like? Okay, it's like 0.47% or something.
So that's what one site is saying, but Market Watch is saying that it's 0.61%. So the data is kind of different.
Yeah, that is strange. But yeah, either way, I mean, it's crazy to hear that that's the number one in here. And then what do we have in second? Like SYNA?
Yeah, so second we have CAR, so CAR.
Oh, CAR?
Yeah.
Okay, Avis Budget Group. Wow, look at this company. Actually, this one went crazy. I remember these these used cars and everything like that were going crazy for a while, but wow, I mean, that's pretty crazy to see it up that much. What's the next one?
Then we have LSCC, which appears to be a semiconductor company.
Wow, I'll be honest. This one has had some pretty good movement, I'll be honest, over the past like year or so. This one's looking like AMD or Nvidia, if you want to be honest.
Yeah, and then the next one was CROX, which is Crowx, which isn't it's not bad today. Like especially like it's kind of running up.
Yeah, it is. I was actually just looking. Me and my girlfriend were actually just talking about these over the weekend, and I was looking some of these shoes up, and some of these Crocs now are going for like $60-$70 for like some of these Crocs. I couldn't believe it, but man, yeah, this is doing pretty well today, and they've been on a pretty big dip, Mike. This might be a pretty good dip buy if you like the company. It's not my favorite one in the world, but I'll be honest, Crocs have gotten a lot of hype over the past couple of years.
Yeah. I used to wear them all the time when I was a kid, but it's been a while.
Yeah, same.
Oh, gosh. And then we have Ubi saying, mind taking another look at Roblox. I have no idea what it's doing this morning. So, absolutely. So, looking at Roblox, it is down about 4%. It attempted to rebound with like the growth companies, but it's definitely struggling a little bit. It honestly is just looking pretty weak. Like it tried to pop up. It's not crashing. It's just kind of like, I would call it more of like a downtrend than like a crash or anything like that. But yeah, it's not really looking too good. Right now we have a pretty big resistance now at $100.
Yeah, now that we fell below that, that's probably going to end up being a pretty bad level over the next few days. So definitely watch that $100 level. If we break back up through 100, definitely watch the area it hit this morning around 105. That definitely seems like it's another pretty big resistance there. So I would definitely be careful around that 105 area. But you're right, Mike. It's just not looking hot today, especially on a day like we talked about earlier where like a lot of other stocks were looking pretty good early, especially earlier on. And it just was a pretty bad day for Roblox.
Yeah, and then George said, seems to be something with meta stocks. I see MTTR and U are also down for today, along with Roblox. So, yeah, Matterport and Unity are struggling. And then another thing is, even Facebook, well, it's not looking too bad, but it's still kind of lagging. But, yeah,
it's
I know what you
definitely
mean.
like not moving as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, we'll see. And then we have Rick saying DraftKings green, let's go. Love to see it, especially after a red start to the day. So that's awesome. Tom, do you have any chart patterns or anything you're seeing on DraftKings?
On DraftKings, let's go check it out. It's been a little while since I've looked at it on the Max Daily. The main thing is just going to be this major support level. I will say, unfortunately, it was in some pretty bad technical setups to the downside for a while, like with the head and shoulders, and then the way we fell below this big trend line there. Like once we fell below that trend line around the beginning of November, that was just not looking good then. And unfortunately, we saw that major sell-off happen. But now that we're kind of down here, there's not too many crazy setups in my opinion, but I will say the support looks pretty good. And whenever I look at it on like the 90-day, 15-minute, that support has been holding up for a while down here around $26. So I'm really hoping that this one ends up holding up for the next like couple of months. I think that'll make such a good bottom for DraftKings. And to be honest, like if we want to, look at DraftKings in a more objective way, it's been really flat down here. Like, to be honest, ever since we touched $26 the first time, it's just been consolidating. So hopefully that's people starting to buy it up.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it is, because you know what I mean. Like it's been in a horrible downtrend, and if now we're consolidating, it means that at least buyers and sellers are at least kind of matching up. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like an equilibrium, you would think.
Yeah, exactly. And it's starting to really hold up. And to be honest, like if we're looking at it on like the daily, I've been starting to see some pretty good volume come in. Now it's not the same volume that we saw, when the stock was flying up, obviously, but hey, still lots of volume coming in, and hopefully it's lots of longer term holds. And I've been seeing stuff where like how Kathy was buying up stuff for a while there and stuff. So hopefully we see it start to go back up pretty soon, especially with some of these bigger players getting in.
Yep. All right, and then we have. I just want to check in on AMC really quickly because I know we were mentioning it, and it wasn't looking great last week, but it wasn't looking terrible either. Today, it's just not really doing anything. But I'll be honest, like I know a lot of like short squeeze setups. Like they have like maybe one, maybe two good weeks, and then they just like end up dying off and giving back all their gains. But I will say that like AMC has been holding up relatively well given everything going on.
Yeah, it has. I will say that too. And this $20 support that it recently bounced off of was pretty big. People were kind of calling it at $20, thinking it would bounce there, and ended up bouncing there pretty big. I know those calls paid off very well if you picked them up at the right time. And it does look pretty good, I'll say. It almost seems like to me, Mike, like we might be forming a bit of like an inverse head and shoulders here. Like it looks like this $20 area might be the start of like a head. And if these shoulders around like the $26 support end up holding up, I could see this setup starting to set up pretty well. But, like you said, though, it's definitely been all over the place, to say the least. I am glad to see it holding up, though. It's doing a lot better to me than like some of those other hype stocks. Like I remember, Mike, we were talking about this a couple weeks ago about those old hype stocks like Top Ships and all those old shipping companies that were going crazy. And if we go like look at those on the daily chart, I mean, it's almost not even existent. Like these stocks have just been straight down ever since their huge pumps to the upside. So hopefully AMC does better than them.
True that. And then we have Sean mentioning TSM, and Sean was really early with this one because this thing is just rocketing. It's up nearly 7% today.
Yeah, this one is on fire. I cannot believe it's doing so well. I'll be honest, I've been seeing some pretty good news with TSM over the past like couple of weeks, but it looks like it's finally catching up. I don't know if there was any specific news today. I'm actually trying to like bring up the Thinkorswim news tab right now, and I'm not seeing anything too crazy, but apparently it says chip sales are set to grow 10% in 2022. I don't know if this is particularly related towards TSM or not, but either way, it's a good piece of news to come across on the news tab. And I'll be honest, this 120 support on TSM held up very well whenever we bounced off of that last week. And I think that really gave room for this explosion here. Like ever since we touched 120, it just exploded right back.
Yep. All right. We even have Boeing still looking really good. Like it's running up pretty well. It's up just under 4%. And for a company like Boeing, 4% is pretty big actually. And this company has just been slowly like losing value over the past year, but it's just a matter of time before we see it pop.
Yeah, it is. And what I really love about Boeing is it's starting to break out above this trend line again. Like I know it broke it a while ago and it ran for a few days there, but it looks like it's starting to finally get back up above here. Hopefully we see it break out above 210 like we talked about. I think that would make for an awesome day tomorrow. Like if we see Boeing pop up above 210 either later today, I would think it would happen more of tomorrow. But once we see this break of 210, I think it could have another great day just like it had today. So hopefully it's a continuation tomorrow and we see two great back-to-backs.
Sounds great. So Tom, we're probably going to wrap the stream up in like a minute or two. Do you have any last-minute plays?
I will say one stock that's on my watch list that is pretty high up there that is very tempting today, or not tempting, but surprising, is Clover. CLOV started to come back up. I know this stock has been another one of those that's been very beaten down. It looks like it's holding up on this $3.70 support fairly well. If we see the rest of the growth stocks go up, Clover could be another one. And then another one I wanted to mention today, Mike, was Tilray. Actually, Tilray is starting to move up pretty well. They had this $7 support. Tilray needs some good news to say the least. They've been on a major downtrend. But just like I said, if the growth stocks start to fly, sometimes these marijuana stocks go up too. So definitely throw Tilray on the radar. And they do have earnings coming out January 10th. So that might be a pretty interesting play for earnings.
Sounds great. Well, thank you guys so much for joining today. We definitely we had an interesting start to the year with the crazy movement we saw today. Of course, we started off with Tesla exploding, then the SPY dumped, and now it's coming right back up. It looks like growth stocks are looking decent, so we should have an interesting year. Thank you guys so much for joining, and have an amazing rest of your day.